Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us for Roundtable number 3 for the Offsite Wood plugin. Today we're celebrating not only the publishing and the launch on the App Store, but a little bit of a dashboard tour from some folks who've worked closely with us. I want to introduce Tim Applebee from the SLAM Collaborative, who has been one of our first beta testers and a loyal advocate for many of our structural systems. And as you've met before, Nicolas Catellier from RevitPure, who has advised us all along on the dashboard here. What I'd love to do today is show the actual app in motion. But first, this is a beautiful project that's been through a few systems on this. So in doing so, I'm going to let him drive the model, go back in time and show us a little more and work through the dashboard on the Offsite Wood plugin. So thanks for coming, Tim.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'd start with this loadable component stream, and you can show us a little bit how the filters work, even though not every job ends up with post and beam and wood.
Yeah, okay, that's a good idea. So this is the Offsite Wood plugin, accessed through the add-ins. Here's the Offsite Wood. Turn it on, it turns into a window here, and it does have a lot of different layers in it. And at the top level, you'll see the mass timber post and beam. You'll see the mass timber floors, light wood frame enclosures. We'll talk about that a little bit. Not talking about volumetric modular assembly.
Not getting there yet. We're working on it, but there's a lot of systems here first.
Too soon. So, so this, at scale, this is not a 4 or 6 story building. It's barely 4, and we just knew from the outset that we weren't really going to be doing the posts and beams unless we were directed to do so by the client. There wasn't a real call for it. But in terms of the what's available in the mass timber post and beam stream, I just clicked on it, and this is what we're seeing here. So
it's easy to have loadable components, but as the wood industry is so young and there's so many criteria, so many fiber, different standards, dimensions, our goal here is to get the right manufacturer, the right criteria. So in this case, I'm going to have Tim toggle between some of the strength factors. Even in Quebec, we have some real high strength northern fiber, and then we have the industry standard. So if you toggle, Tim, between 20F and 24, you'll see one of the big splits within our manufacturer base. And you have 2 major manufacturers with different fibers and slightly different sizes. And now you can use Revit to toggle between them. You can download both. You can talk to your engineer about which one is actually relevant. And it works in similar ways throughout that whole stream. And we expect to be adding more. So
these are both beams and columns. So in the very top level, you do have that option of saying, well, do you want to be loading posts and beams? Have you already loaded your post? You can actually toggle between those nominal widths, right? So if we're doing timber, right, that's what we're going to be caring about. A bigger building is going to want a bigger column, obviously, and section. But that
just the architect, as we say, might be choosing the width, knowing the design might be fire governed, and in solid timber, the width of the beam and the char layer helps to determine the fire resistance. So this is going to be a beta of a tool that could essentially make sure you have wide enough beams for the fire resistance scenario you're thinking. But in Revit, I think we should emphasize the architect may control the starting point here. The depth of those beams may be subject to engineering. And so both fire protection and structural would follow beyond this. And this is really only for those scenarios where you know exactly where you're starting.
So again, this is a dormitory project. It's an interesting lower level podium with structure sitting above. And to talk through the mass timber floor stream, I think I don't want to be doing it with this articulated model in. This is just to let you know kind of where it ended up. I did basically shut off the architectural components, and this was the hybrid mass timber system that we had developed through schematic design. Came in on budget. I'm proud to say, but at the same time, the owner did opt for a geothermal system, and a light wood frame, and is supported by the GC and CM on it. So it got put into the laundromat, but this is what it was looking like at the end of SD, and we needed to obviously create that documentation. Workflow wise, a concept level massing with these floor surfaces, concept floors, are a good starting point for conceptual level design, pre-SD even. And to jump into the mass timber floor stream, let's look at this here. So clicked on the mass timber floor streams. I can always click back to streams to jump up to that higher level. The GLT is something that we actually explored with Eli as an option to span our corridors, right? It's the name of the game here was just efficiency of system, and it did make sense to have the CLT deck just fly across it. But the GLT is definitely a product that we did look at for above our corridors in a light wood frame option, and that's where this is where we would pull that from, because that's not available in the light wood frame option down below, is it, Eli?
These are all, but these would be in the mass timber floor product here, and the layup combinations are just meant to educate and show people the number of plies for the CLTs, and then the decking as we populate this will be right below that in that same category.
Right, and you'll notice that the 5-ply does come in these different thicknesses, and that's actually one of the perks of this Offsite Wood plugin, is that it allows for a differentiation of those layups. We were thinking, because of our low floor to floor, that we would appreciate the thinner Nordique product, this 143 millimeter -5S. So I'll go ahead and I'll say we want that in the project. At this point, architectural, yes, because the client wanted that nice underside, and we want to have that spec built into our model. That opens a whole different conversation about model-based specifications, and I'm happy to say that SLAM is working with Eli and QWeb on that level of thing.
Yeah, this is one of the great ways. I mean, this is a continuous delivery platform, so having a beta tester like SLAM, who's got engineers in-house, spec writers, sharing models, has really been an awesome learning experience for us about what we're going to do downstream, for sure, how we can help get the wood industry more well integrated with workflows like yours. But at this point, we're still early in the launch. The content that we have to offer right now is really to start out the model, as you've done here. This is perfect. Mm-hmm. And at this point, as you bring it in, you've actually raised needs of the architect at this phase, and I think Nicolas has also helped us implement some of those. So I'm wondering if we might even take a peek here at some of the texture or other details that you do when you're starting these models out.
Yeah, well, one of the things that Eli asked me to work on with this plugin, and something I advised him, was having great texture images for the woods. As architects, that's something that is often missing on textures online or material Revit families. And I know, like, good textures are not always easy to find, so I helped him find some great families. I think, Tim, did you have an example on Landscape?
I did load them in. So yeah, so let me actually go ahead, check these boxes, and click the load, so these families do migrate into the model here.
Yep.
Let me jog over to Enscape concept model. I'll go over here. I'll say floor by face, and floor by face. These Nordique floors are loaded up into the model. I'll say, well, let's do the 143. Now, floors by face, it's looking for these floor surfaces, 1, 2. I want to create those floors. To show what Eli and Nick were talking about in terms of the materials, let me go ahead and hide this concept mass. So now we've just got the plain old floor deck in there, and off camera, my Enscape is automatically refreshing here, and it looks like it's gotten that mass out. So here, this is the glory of the material that Nic has developed. Nic, do you want to say anything about this in particular?
Yeah, well, first Enscape works great with that kind of renderings. It's a couple of clicks, and I spend a lot of time looking for good texture images. So I was very careful to try to find a nice image for this kind of rendering, and you can see it does look pretty good. And
yeah,
that's all in Revit.
It looks pretty good. That's the understatement of the year.
Yeah.
Like that is definitely the spruce material that
yeah
I want to see in my client renderings. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's right. And it's fun to download families and they immediately have this kind of texture, not to have to waste them around trying to find the right texture.
Yep.
But now there is another step here, right? Like in terms of our plugin, I've had to learn this through your guys' expertise, but our members who are developing their own textures and the architects who have a unique setup with the textures in their workstation or their firm, they do need to get in touch with each other. It's not going to come automatically through the plugin on the family. There's basically going to be a request for details where the members are going to send those.
Yeah, that's right. And that's because, an image texture cannot be embedded in a Revit family or a Revit system family. It has to be external.
And so maybe this is a good time to actually jog over to the place where folks can actually make that request, I think. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. That's a great idea.
I mean, I could stare at this all day, but I mean, we can also just go back to business.
Yeah, and while we're doing that, I would say Tim was the one who originally raised some of these goals years ago to the wood industry, and why isn't the wood industry doing more of this, and also has helped us understand how you use these in practice. Rendering early and doing daylight calculations are both things that you've helped us understand what level of realism we need to have while still keeping the family lightweight.
That's critical. Yeah, the reflectance value of the materials that you can request and upon engagement with QWeb, those reflectance values will actually participate in your insight daylighting analysis for lead credit. And that's great. You'll see that it comes in as an architectural floor, but nobody's going to be walking on the top of a CLT slab, right? So what do? Do you jump in to edit the assembly of this floor and add your acoustical mat or your lightweight topping or whatever that is, or do you actually create a second finish level floor? I'm gonna just click back and join it to this floor. The answer is you could pick either one. But when you're running those daylight analysis, you don't want multiple floors showing up.
It seems like now that mass timber is really going gangbusters and everybody's a lot more comfortable with the structural properties. Acoustics are a really big deal. And acoustics are like a lot of it's complex, subject to full scale testing. If you open up our plugin once again for this, and we go to the testing and evaluation criteria on mass timber floors, I'm going to give you a little hint about basically these are non-dimensional criteria you can find out more about, and it's just checking off if there's been further evaluation of assemblies. So these are mass timber floor assemblies, and I know for a fact acoustic testing is being done on full scale assemblies in many manufacturers and many industries, and this one is going to be built out further. So there will, at the time being, it probably makes sense for architects to add the layers in the manner that they want to the bare slabs that we're offering. But given that this is continuous content, we absolutely will be letting you know when test results are in, STC assemblies with other manufacturers who will be layered in. We're going to update this content, get it out to everybody and you should be able to use it all as one assembly that's got a value.